Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started, even though we still have some people that are going to be late. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you. I'm Tian Wong, and it's great to be back in Baltimore. That's all I can say. So thank you, Baltimore. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Johns Hopkins. We are running a little bit late, so I'll be very, very brief. We have a great program today, great speakers and great attendees, and 7 awesome presenting companies. So our presenting companies, as you guys know, and our sponsors have tables in room 24C down the hall, and we will be open till noon for networking. So after our presentations with our presenters, please do go visit with them, especially if you're interested in investing. And I have to thank our partners. These guys make it possible, starting with Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. We'll hear from the dean very soon. TEDCO, we'll hear from the CEO soon. Motley Fool Ventures, Nemphos Brow, Next, powered by Shulman Rogers, New York Life, Startup Grind, Ryan and Wetmore, AEG, Truist Financial, the annual Wharton DC Summit, Keiretsu Forum, National Association of Business Owners and Entrepreneurs, the Smith School of Business, Dingman Center, Kobe, the Baltimore Angels, Center for Advancing Innovation, Institute for Excellence in Sales, U.S. International Development Center, FITSE, Georgetown Entrepreneurship, Founder Institute, and Maryland Tech Council. Maryland Tech Council CEO will be here later on to give remarks as well. But let's give it up for our sponsors, please. Couple program notes. We're back to in-person. We're hoping to do 8 over the next 12 months. Our next in-person is December 13th. We also run the world's largest virtual pitch events, and those are free. They're on Zoom. Next one is November 22nd. So you can go on our website at CONNECTpreneur.org if you want more information. I also want to shout out, we are doing a masterclass, or Nemphos Brow is doing a masterclass, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Intellectual Property. It's at 11:30 a.m. on November 30th, so please mark your calendars. You'll see the brochures on your chairs, so feel free to sign up. Again, that's free, and it'll be sent out to our CONNECTpreneur community. Without further ado, I'd like to bring up our host this morning, Dean Alex Triantis, who is the Dean of the Carey Business School. I've known Alex for many, many years. Our wives and daughters know each other and are friends. He's my neighbor. And I knew Alex when he was a professor at Maryland, and then became the dean at Robert H. Smith School, and then he's now here doing great things with Carey Business School. Alex, thank you so much for your support.
Thanks, Shannon. I know we're running behind, so I'll make this really brief. I'll get to talk a little bit later as well. But a warm, warm welcome to the Carey Business School. You know, February 2020, we had one of these sessions here before, and then everything changed. And it's so amazing. And obviously, you're making up for lost time because it was impossible to get everybody back in here. But this is what it's all about, getting us together and sharing stories and what we're up to. So thank you so much for coming. We, as you can see, have an incredible floor up here, the 24th floor of this building. We're now the largest tenant. We have 6 of the 24 floors here. Maybe someday our logo will be at the top now that Legg Mason has taken theirs down. Who knows? Stay tuned. But it's incredible to have you all here. We basically put all the shades around so you have no clue what's outside at all. But hopefully you'll get a chance maybe to go out or at least to look out. We are most innovative and creative when we're out in the open, and so this is a great place where we often just come here quietly and sneak out. For those of you from DC, we're about to move into a new building next August where the old museum building used to be. So hopefully we'll maybe have one of these sessions down there as well. So really excited to have everybody here. Enjoy the morning, and I'll turn it back to you, Chen.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. I think everyone in the room knows who TEDCO is. TEDCO is doing some amazing things. Not only are they sponsoring, but Troy's been there a couple years now, and we're very interested in the kinds of deals that they're doing, as well as the impact that they're having on every entrepreneur here in the state of Maryland, including underserved entrepreneurs. And Troy, if you could please come up and give us a quick update on how you guys are doing. Thank you.
Good morning, Baltimore. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for having us here today. This is just amazing to see this many folks. Tim, thank you for your leadership, for bringing us together. I really want to thank you. I got to ask for what we call our One TEDCO team. Please raise your hand. One TEDCO team who's here. We got a lot of folks here from TEDCO. So yes, thank you, Tim. TEDCO, we do all the early stage technology investments for the state of Maryland. So let me define a couple of things. Early stage. Early stage for us means literally because we have three funds, which I'll talk about. We will invest even if you have just the idea. I like to call it the pre-napkin idea. If it's just a napkin on an idea, we will help take that napkin of an idea, that ideation, and turn that ideation into a minimum viable product, a proof of concept. We will fund you along the way, move you from our social impact, our builder fund, move you to our seed and venture funds, which I'll talk more about. So then I talked about technology. Our historical definition of technology had been it had to be kind of an IP, particularly something around SaaS or something in the life sciences, pharmaceutical space. But here's how I like to say it, and some of you may have heard me talk about this. We believe technology can be embedded into anything on the retail or services side. So some of you that are maybe too young won't understand what I'm about to say. So if George Jefferson comes back, George Jefferson, if y'all don't know, check it out on YouTube. If George Jefferson comes back and starts a cleaning business, and he has technology that allows him to do cleaning better, faster, cheaper, or deliver them in some Uber-like fashion, that technology, because I want to ask myself, is George a technologist who just happens to be in the dry cleaning business? Or is he a dry cleaning entrepreneur who's using technology to fundamentally change the value and the delivery functionality in that business? And that's the type of technology we want to begin to invest in. So as I close, what we do, we have three funds. We have a social impact fund. And our social impact fund, exactly what it says. We're investing in entrepreneurs, what we'd like to say underinvested individuals, underinvested markets, and underinvested communities. We're looking at how to take those investments and change the way in which those individuals have investment opportunities. I'm not always ready for institutional capital. That's okay. We'll get you ready for institutional capital if that's the pathway for you. Within that, we have what we call the Builder Fund. Some of you may be familiar with the Builder Fund. The Builder Fund has been a very successful fund. Started out as $1 million. It's now $5 million. Will eventually become almost $8 million. We've been very successful with that. We've had follow-on investments of the tune of over $20 million for the companies that we've invested in our Builder Fund. So our company's moved from our Builder Fund, which is run by Jean-Luc Park. Jean-Luc's not here right now. You move to our seed funds. We have 6 seed funds. We're looking at technology commercialization, life sciences, GAP fund, which allows us to match. I didn't say this in social impact. We're writing checks in the 150,000 to high up 350. Seed funds, we're starting at about 2 to 3. We are actually now putting out about $1 million checks. I see my friend Teddy back here. He's one of our interim managers for the seed fund. And so that's what we do with the seed fund. And finally, you're going to hear from Catherine here. Catherine is our manager, Catherine Hill-Ritchie. You'll hear from her later. She runs our venture fund. That's our Series A-B fund, where we're putting up to $2.5 million into later stage funds. So we have the full range. And on top of that, we also not just help invest, we also support. So we have a ton of opportunities if you need a lawyer, if you need a wet lab, if you need 3D printing, if you need access to anything in the ecosystem, we're also investing in the ecosystem. Why? Because, and I'll close, because there's 4 S's. Say, I grew up in Texas, and I was around a lot of Baptist ministers, and they like to talk in alliterations, Olin. And so I talk in alliterations. So we got to do 3 things, really 4. First of all, we got to scale differently, Maryland. We have to add a 0 to what we're doing. Where we're putting 5 million things, we got to put 5 billion. But you know, we're too small. I grew up in Texas, I said, and so the whole state of Maryland could fit into a western county in Texas. So we're not that big geographically, but we got some amazing assets. But they're not knitted together, or the word we use is stitched together. We got to stitch them together far better. And we talked about this last night with my friend Chris, talking about with our friends at Upsurge. We got to stitch them together better. So because if you stitch, you scale. If you scale, you stitch. Which then, if you do both of those, you get to storytell better with some data. We can tell a better story about what we have here in Maryland. And that creates a do loop. Because if I get more resources, I can stitch better, I can scale better, I can storytell better. But I told you there was 4 S's, and I'll close. If we scale, stitch, and storytell, we create a higher level of stickiness for the state of Maryland, for the companies that start, grow, and graduate here in Maryland. Thank you again, Tien. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you so much, Troy. Really exciting things what you guys are doing. And now we'd like to bring up our investor panel. So ladies and gentlemen, please come on up. We have Our dean, Alex Trianis, will be our moderator. Chris College, who's probably no stranger to you guys. Chris is managing partner of TCP Venture Capital. Olin Douglas, managing partner and founder of Motley Fool Ventures. Todd Marks, managing partner of MindGrub Ventures and chairman of the board of the Maryland Tech Council. And Catherine Hill Ritchie, who Troy just mentioned, senior director of the venture funds for TEDCO. So thank you guys for joining us this morning. And Alex, take it away.
All right, well, you did my first job, so I appreciate that. Although really, it'd be great to have each of the panelists introduce themselves with a little bit more detail in terms of what it is that you do at your organization and the kinds of investments that you're making, and then we'll get into a little bit more details. So you want to start us off?
Sure,
It's the button, yeah.
have to hold it down.
No, it just...
Hi, I'm Todd Marks. I'm the CEO, founder, and president of MindGrub Technologies. MindGrub focuses on making and marketing client software. I've been from Baltimore. I went to Loyola and Hopkins here. I've been a serial entrepreneur. I have dozens of companies now. But what I found in the SaaS software place is that a lot of founders are good at product development, or maybe they're great at marketing. But maybe they struggle in team management and operations, or maybe they struggle at getting access to capital, which I think everybody struggles with that. So as I expanded my technology business, making software for my clients, I also found it was necessary to get into venture capital. I started a venture capital company a couple years ago, and I've now invested in 7 local SaaS companies to help them get from really a seed stage through mezzanine to a Series A is my focus. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Todd. Owen, tell us a little bit about Motley Fool Ventures.
Yes, my name is Olin Douglas. I'm the managing partner of Motley Fool Ventures. Yes, we are associated with the Motley Fool Company. We're a venture capital division in there. I run that. We manage $250 million of assets. We invest in Series A companies. I was listening to Troy talk, and it sounded a lot like what we do, and which is excellent. We invest in software-centric companies focusing on digital transformation, which is looking at how business was done, old George, and using software and technology to make them competitive and advance in a digital-first world. I will stop there and take your time and pass it on.
Thanks, Owen. Chris?
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for being here. I'm Chris College with TCP Venture Capital. We've been around for 10 years. We're on our 3rd fund now, making $500,000 to $2 million investments in early stage technology companies. We have 15 current portfolio companies. I guess I'd say that we do everything in technology that can scale quickly, except for things that require an FDA approval. So we don't get into the biotech and med device world. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Hill Ritchie, and we'll take the ones that need FDA approval.
Yeah.
So as Troy mentioned, I manage the venture portfolio. So that's Series A and up. So I'm looking for a little bit more mature companies and love to do follow-ons, especially if companies that have come up through the TEDCO pipeline, but across the board, like we said. So it could be medical devices, consumer products, SaaS. I mean, we're looking at everything, even, satellites and things in space. So technology broadly. We don't mind the FDA approval process. We've got PhDs on staff that can help with that too. So that's what I do.
Super. Well, thanks much. We've got sort of good context here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the current market and get each of your perspectives on where we are. Clearly, a lot of turmoil in the markets, particularly in the tech sector of the market. And I'm just kind of curious how right now your organizations are adapting to that. Are you changing the kind of companies, the stage, the size of the checks, or anything else? So if we could maybe go down the row once again and just tell us a little bit about how things are changing for you relative to maybe the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think the market in general is strong and going to be strong, but there is a bubble, and that bubble is in overpriced knowledge workers. And you see it, Twitter letting go 11,000 people, or Facebook, sorry, letting go 11,000 people, Twitter letting go half their staff, 3,000 to 4,000 people. Particularly in 2000, 21, when there's the great resignation, everybody working from home, you can job hop every 6 months and keep bumping your salary up by 10K. And what happened was domestically, we overpaid for our tech workers. And so now big tech in particular is reeling from that, and they're doing reduction in force. That said, during COVID, the world got very flat as well. And so now, why pay somebody $250,000 when you can pay them $30,000, right? If you can get the same quality out of them. So what we've noticed is that the market is still strong, but the game has changed, and now it's global supply chains need to be leveraged. Capital markets themselves are stayed fairly consistent. There has been a swing toward underserved communities and getting more capital there, which is a very interesting thing as a result of a lot of DEI initiatives. So we are looking at where some of these things are intersecting as an investor. Right? We're still always focused on SaaS products, but we're looking at those companies that are leveraging a global supply chain. They have a focus on growth areas and disruptive markets. And more times than not, they themselves are disruptive in that they've generally been an underserved part of our community that's now starting to command capital markets.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. I'll speak specifically about what we're seeing kind of in our fund and our markets. There's definitely been a change in the way I would categorize it is a lot of times what you're seeing in the headlines are averages. And in reality, on the ground, it feels more like a barbell. So that average thing that you're seeing where everyone is staying flat, no one's staying flat. You know, there's a bunch of companies that are doing well, that are taking lots of steps to actually come in and refresh. Let's say you raised a round last year and you're doing well and you were oversubscribed and the world is looking kind of crazy and like, let me go back and get that extra money now just in case. So they're taking money out of the markets. And for those companies who aren't doing well, a lot of them are the ones that are really focused on cash conservation. You know, let's hold out. Let's not go back into the market because we don't think it's very attractive. And then what you're finding, if you're out there raising capital and it feels like it's harder than it was, it's because it is harder. Because if you're not in that top tier where you're still starting to see some decent valuations, it's really quiet. And even for those companies, and this as a VC, I'm happy about this. Valuations are coming down a little bit. It's taking longer to do deals. I'm not getting calls on Thursday telling me about a company for the first time and telling me I need to give them an answer by Monday, which I'm like, I don't even know how to do that, you know? And so there is some kind of calming down, which I think is healthy, but there's a bifurcation happening underneath of those averages that I think we will see play out in 2023.
Chris? I would agree with everything that both Todd and Olin said. I guess I would put a different spin on it a little bit. I think it's a great time to be an investor. It's a great time to be a company too if you're differentiated and you have a unique idea and you've got a good team and a good plan. I think Olin's right that it's going to be a barbell. The people that have those things are going to see more funding and the rounds of funding are going to be larger. The people that don't have that differentiation and that management team, that new fresh idea, are not going to be able to raise money for the next couple of years. I'd say that one of the things that's driving that, you heard about two of them already. Another one that's driving that is venture before the pandemic at this stage was a local business or a regional business. During the pandemic, it became a national business. It's very much going to revert, I believe, back to more of a local or regional business. And the reason I believe that is that most of the family offices and the high net worth individuals that were funding a lot of the companies over the last 2 to 3 years, that bid is out of the market because they're looking at their stock portfolio and they're saying, I'm 40% poorer than I was 3 months ago. They're not making venture investments right now. So for a couple of those reasons, I think it's going to be a better time to invest, a better time to build a company. But it is going to go revert somewhat back to what it was pre-pandemic.
Yes, I agree about the family office part. I worked for 4 family offices before I joined TEDCO, and it's interesting. You're totally right. They've pulled back a lot, and so I think that means those people are out of a lot of the rounds. But that makes companies nervous because there's fewer investors. But I have noticed that there are a lot more bridge rounds, smaller rounds that they want to close quickly, because companies are afraid. So I've seen companies who I talked to a month and a half ago, they come back and they've halved their valuation because they know they're not going to be able to raise at what they went out. They, felt around in the market and knew, it's way too expensive. So I'm seeing valuations come down a lot. The thing about TEDCO is that we have to invest no matter what. So we invest in all weather, because we have an obligation for the state of Maryland to invest. So we have to find good deals. And so we're unlike a family office or someone personally who can take their money out of the markets. We are in, and we're looking for good companies all the time, and no matter what the markets are. So we're here to invest.
Great. And by the way, we're going to open up to the audience for questions. So if you have any burning questions, please hold on just for a couple more minutes. So just in terms of looking forward over the next couple of years, so take out your crystal balls now in terms of where you think the markets are going to be headed in the next couple of years. And I'm curious also, maybe as part of that question, is what you're thinking in terms of exits of your portfolio companies and whether or not that has fundamentally changed as you view your portfolio. So, I don't know, Todd, you want to start again?
Yeah, I think one change is, a lot of startup companies, if they can, fire on all four cylinders and go through their Series A, B, C to IPO, it's an interesting statistic that only 23% of businesses are profitable when they go public. Which that's impressive statistics. I mean, 77% of them are not profitable. I think we're going to get more conservative, and that'll swing back to being more profitable. So we're looking at companies that can really focus on sustainability while they scale, instead of simply growth and scale, and not being, cash flow positive. We like those companies that can be profitable, that have revenue, and then we try to take them to their Series A, but set them up with success so that they can essentially be a scalable business, eventually go public or sell, 100% to private equity, but while being profitable.
Yeah, and I would say kind of thinking 2 years out, high level, 2023, I think is going to be a period of kind of the completion of that bifurcation story. Everyone tells you that in venture capital, most of the companies don't kind of deliver on the financial returns that that people expect when they invest. With whomever you talk to, it could be 1%, 5%, 10%. It doesn't really matter. Most companies don't deliver on those projections that they happen, and we all understand that kind of intellectually. We're gonna go through that. I think if you look back at history, there's specific incidents that happen that drive these changes. And I think 2023 is going to be one of those specific incidents where you see that separation, where the companies that are going to make it are not going to make it. And then 2024 is an election year. And this is apolitical, but the candidates for 2024 are starting to rise. It's going to be a show, right? I don't know how, I can, that's like, yeah, and that's
an alliteration.
Yeah, that's the easiest prediction in the history of predictions, right? But that's going to be a show. It's going to be hard to get anything done in 2024. The IPO market, it may start to come back to some degree, but it's not going to be top of mind for a lot of people. So I do think we're probably in for a difficult 23. Starting to see some liquidity for those companies that aren't performing. Again, very much the one side of the barbell will be operating business as usual, but there's a lot of value and there's a lot of ingenuity and there's a lot of creativity that comes out of the rest of that barbell, and that's going to be stunted for a couple of years.
I'm extremely bullish in the next 3 years, and probably for a contrarian reason. The best, in my opinion, the best 3 years for new venture ideas, people, founders, was right after the 2008 debt crisis. 2010, 2011, some of the biggest and best companies that we all know today were formed, founded right then in the worst economy we've had in 20 years, maybe even 40 years. And I think it's something that's going to happen again. Unfortunately, when there's turmoil, things change. Ideas get spawned. Look at the, I don't know how many it was at Twitter, 10,000, the 20,000 people at Amazon, the probably 150 to 200,000 people that are going to lose their tech jobs over the next 6 months. They're all going to say, hey, I don't like working for that corporation, and I have this great idea that they would never implement. So I'm going to go build my own business. And I think we'll see that over the next couple of years. So, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be more difficult because there's going to be less funding, but it's going to be an area where people circle around good ideas and they fund really good companies. So I'm excited about it.
When I look at our portfolio, going public is very difficult and time consuming, and people have tried to hack it, right? I mean, look at SPACs. That was a disaster, right? But so many companies are like, oh, I'll just go public through a SPAC. But I think it doesn't matter if you're a consumer product, medical device, biotech. I mean, it makes a lot more sense to just get acquired by a strategic. Having that pathway from the beginning is very attractive to invest in, but I think that makes a lot more sense. So I think that, these big companies don't want to innovate internally. They want to buy. So, just like your example, it's true. You're going to have smart people leaving these tech companies, and they're going to create something that it's a lot easier for someone to just come along and buy, So I think that that's the opportunity.
Yeah. And it's interesting to Chris's point that a downturn, in particular, sort of for these overpriced knowledge workers that are being shed, that it's a great opportunity also for business schools. So think about that. If you're in that category, come back, get an MBA and start a company at the same time. We love that. Before I open it up, I just wanted to, I know many of you, maybe all of you, are sort of focused on underserved communities and trying to make sure that the funding is available there. Any insights in terms of how you're seeing that evolve and whether or not there's a greater sort of aperture opening for underserved communities to be able to get funded?
Yeah, well, here in the Baltimore region, there's a lot of programs. So TEDCO being one of those that historically funds those communities. We now have EdSurge that came up in the last couple of years. They've really
Upsurge?
Upsurge, yeah, sorry. EdSurge was a thing in Baltimore. Upsurge, and they really have some Techstars and Alex Brown backing them and funding the underserved communities. One thing, just to go back to Chris's point, I am super excited for disruption. So my company, MindGrub, I founded in 2002, in and out of jobs, floundered around for a while, graduated college 98, and you run the math, in 2008, I had my 10 years experience, my 10,000 hours. I was working for Deloitte in Chicago, but I had now a 7 kids family here back in Baltimore. So I had my experience. I had a real need to start a company because I couldn't, cut it anymore going back and forth to Chicago every week. And there was a massive disruption in the marketplace. And I was the first company making mobile apps, and has made Wendy's and Dell and Geico's mobile apps over the years. And a lot of the startups in Baltimore that have had great exits. That disruption, I can't stress enough, is going to happen over the next years. It's in AI, it's in cloud services, digital transformation, AR and VR. Internet of Things, those are the disruptive markets, life sciences and health tech, that you should absolutely be dipping your toe in the water if you have a real need in your 10,000 hours. It is one of the best times that there's going to be a lot of startup activity. And the companies that get funding are going to be the scrappier companies that are going to be the ones that go all the way, whether it is a strategic private equity or an IPO, 5 to 10 years from now.
For Motley Fool Ventures, we pretty much started out with the idea that we're investors, we're VCs. Our primary target is financial returns. Our differentiator is that we're willing to look inside and outside the norms for great investments. And I think that gives us a competitive advantage. Right now, I'd say roughly 60% of the 150 million that we've deployed has gone into underrepresented founders, women, people of color, and they're outperforming, they're delivering returns. We look at mission-driven companies, 85% of our gains. With 4 years, we've doubled the money into our investors, and we're just getting started, right? And 85% of it's come from mission-driven companies, and those underrepresented founders are overrepresented in that population. So we fairly believe that, to your point about being differentiated, a lot of that comes from people who have different backgrounds, different experiences, can look at problems and see solutions in a different way. And that's exciting for me as an investor, and it's exciting for our LPs as well. And for me, it just makes good financial sense to go to where the investors are. We put 40% of that, our capital, into the DMV, and some of our top performing companies are coming from this area. There's a lot of talent in this area. There's a lot of talent in this room. And I'm kind of doom and gloom about what's on the time horizon for the next couple of years. For me, that's 2 years out of 10, 12 years. It's just a bump in the road, right? If you have a great idea, there's never a bad time to start it, to go through it. You got to have some grit. You got to have some patience and tenacity, which is weird, right? But do it. And there are people like me, and more people like me, that are out there looking to help you succeed. So.
It's great to hear, Chris.
So we get about 650 roughly business plans every year. We spend time with about 350 of those. And, we meet with over 150 founders. One of the things that we try to focus on is if you're a underrepresented founder, we want to sit down and talk to you, find out what you're doing, and try to help you. Whether we can invest or not, try to help you. One of our founders who we've now invested 3 times, 2 times we led their financing, came to us from the Carey Business School and said, I got this great idea. I'm like, the market's not big enough. We can't invest in you, but you have to be able to find a way to make your market bigger. Came back, about 6 months later, said, hey, it's bigger now. And I said, well, it's bigger, but it's not blue. We need it to be blue. And he's like, well, okay. Comes back probably 9 months later, and we said, well, no, it needs to be square and blue, not round and blue. and this is why. And he's like, but he took those ideas, he understood why. We sat down, we led a $5.2 million investment for him the first time. The second time it was a $7 million investment. And right now they're going out to raise $20 million. But this is a founder who said, I'm taking that advice. I know you can't invest in this. It was 2.5 years from the first time we met to when we actually did our first investment with them. So, I think everybody here on the panel probably meets with a lot of companies that they know they can't invest in then, but you never know where it's going to go. And if you're good, especially with meeting underrepresented founders, talking it through with them, you're helping them out one way or another so that they're not going down path A when they really should be on path B.
So what's great about TEDCO is that we will have investors, companies who come in at the builder social impact level. So they could have multiple rounds from us. For example, we had our annual meeting earlier this year, and it was fantastic to see people who have kind of grown up through the steps. So a huge part of our portfolio are underserved founders because it's designed like that from the beginning. So by the time they get to me, a Series A, I'm doing a follow-on round in a company that we know that we've grown up with, that's used our resources. So, the statistic is something like 2% of underserved founders get venture tech money. We're like way, way up in the double digits. So I'm really proud to say that if you look at our portfolio, it's just, it's atypical. But there are a majority of businesses, from here south and through Montgomery County, but we have people in Eastern Shore. We're looking all over the state. We've got people in the rural areas as well, because we consider part of that the communities that are underserved that we want to also tap into. So as Troy was saying earlier, we've got a funny little state, but there's so much here with the national labs, and it's amazing because I used to invest globally, but I am very busy. There are companies every day raising Series A in our state, and it's impressive. And they're diverse. So I think it also has to just do with where we are in the country. This is a very exciting, educated area, and we've got a lot of underserved founders that are getting funded.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, and one of the strengths, as you say, of this area and the whole Equitech phenomenon as well. We, I think, have a few minutes. I'm looking at Boss Man there. Okay. All right, so questions from the audience.
This is your opportunity to stand up and come up with any question just to introduce yourself, your startup, Right, that's the move right now, people.
Yeah, but don't go on too long about that, but yeah. Please.
Thank you. You talked a lot about growth over the next economic opportunity period that we're going to be facing. Some people talk about VUCA max, where we're going to see 100% growth in the next 10 years, so tenfold, and that Moore's law has been kicking in. So every 18 months, technology is giving all sorts of opportunities. So any comments on both of those?
VUCA as in the volatile, uncertain,
Yeah, but
blah, blah, blah.
we're getting
Okay.
into a period of VUCA max. We're going to
VUCA
see
max, okay.
you know,
Haven't heard that one
100
before.
years of growth in the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to speak to VUCA math because I just heard that for the first time. So what I will say is when you think about the positives and the rate of technology adoption, I think McKinsey did a survey of large corporations, and during the pandemic, they accelerated their pace of technology adoption by 7 years. And that's just an incredible speed that happens. And I think the wild card in the story that things are going to be better than they seem is there were a lot of lessons learned during the pandemic. People were saying that you couldn't work virtually and all kinds of things that companies were saying they couldn't do. They figured out how to do in a couple of months once everything got shut down. The fact of the matter is, and not many people speak about it, there's not a technology person, there's not a CEO out there that's going to look at those lessons and then forget about it the next time something bad happens. Hey, I just went through a period where I was saved by technology. Why in the world would I not try that again? And that's very exciting for venture capital, for the entrepreneurs, for the innovators, because we've set a tone for where we can look to technology to very quickly solve some pressing problems, many of them unexpected. Even the vaccine, the development of the vaccine, I think was the fastest development in history. So we are poised with that foundation that we have now, such that I think there's a lot of change that can happen, and technology can once again come to the forefront to make this downturn be a lot shorter than what we're expecting. So if I had to put a wild card out there, that's the one that I would bet on.
Thanks, Old.
I guess I'd take a slightly different view on Moore's Law there. Moore's Law was originally for computing power, for either the mainframe or the PC. Computing power and computing is not exciting, and it's not meeting Moore's Law anymore. It's hit a plateau. So I guess I think I'd almost apply it to, is there another equivalent where you see different technologies, and there's lots of them that are exciting, AI, genomics, which we don't do, but you do. I think you're going to see over the next 10 years adaptations on technology, new uses, new business models, new service models, new ideas around different changes in society, like working from home. I actually don't see a huge technology like the personal computer on the next 10 years that's going to start a new industry. Cold fusion, sure, it's out there, lots of different things are there, but I don't see any of them that are breakthroughs in the next 10 years, personally.
I actually think artificial intelligence could very well be a breakthrough technology.
Well, with what's going on with chips and with China and Taiwan and the recent announcements about how they want to make them here in the United States, and then actually even one of my portfolio companies, whose name I won't mention, is now being able to create some chips with plastic and graphene because silicone is so expensive. So I think, listen, there's been a huge effort to try to get more manufacturing back in the US, but I think pushes like that, which are more political in nature, maybe people will spend a little bit more because it's made here. But that whole supply chain issue really was a unfortunate consequence of COVID, but it just showed us, where our weaknesses are. So maybe more on the ground manufacturing here that is a possibility. But in the next 10 years, there's incredible things. Even if you look at nuclear, that's another very polarizing kind of energy source, right? But that,
you know, there's more here in the United States than we even know there are. But there's all kinds of very interesting technologies that I think, I hope more come out of the US and we can control it.
Thank you for the elaborative response panel. We do have a couple more questions from the audience.
Oh, wow. Thanks for getting us started, by the way. Look at that.
Hi, my name is Tisha Jepson. I'm CEO of True Bearing Diagnostics. First, I'd like to thank Alex Triantis and Tien Wong for making today possible and for you all for being here. We were encouraged a few moments ago to just introduce ourselves and what we're doing, so I'm going to take that opportunity. I am, as I said, Tisha Jepson, CEO of True Bearing Diagnostics. I know that this region is looking to put itself on the map as being, they used to say, third. I would like us to change that terminology to the top 3 within the nation for biotech and healthcare. And I think that we can, at True Bearing, help this region to do that. We have, at this point, we're focused on an infection diagnostic. We have the ability to give an agnostic answer. Is there an infection present or not? And what is the magnitude of said infection? We are 97% accurate. We have 3 publications, 3 data sets, and we are patented. We're on the pathway to FDA clearance, and I'm looking forward to talking to anyone that I haven't reached today at some point in the near future, either today or some future date. Thanks so much.
And if you haven't linked up with Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures, that should be, you know, your next stop.
Did you apply to TEDCO? In the past I have. I got all the way through and then you all fell apart. So I'd like to do that.
Not only one TEDCO, the new TEDCO.
I'm also going to take Todd's advice, but I do have a question. I'm Jillian, co-founder of Mindful Mamas. You're going to hear a very compelling story from my CEO today when she presents. My question, though, is around impact funds and serving the underserved in terms of funding. We have less access to resources and tools. So I'm curious, what does that really mean, you know, to you and your fund? And what are you doing? Chris spoke to this a little bit, but we've had the experience of pitching to impact funds or funds that really serve women, and we're not convinced that that's always at the forefront of what they're trying to do. So curious about your funds and what that means to you.
Yeah, in general, an investor wants to get a 5 to 7x return in 2 to 3 years, period, right? We're in business. But an impact fund like TEDCO, right, they're really kind of quasi between, you know, private and public, and they get a lot of their funding from the state. And so they can play a little bit more of a long game. So where there's some spaces that, you know, over 10 years, the world's changing and this is going to be very impactful and a very viable business model in 10 years versus an investor that wants to see a 5 or 7 in 2 to 3, an impact fund should be a little bit more of a longer game where they know that the world really needs this change. It's going to be very viable. It's just not viable in 2 to 3 years. So that would be, you know, really where I would see an impact fund. And then there is a lot of venture and potentially some private equity that as they've grown and they've been very successful, they're moving into a little bit more of a, you know, long-term impact philanthropy play as well. So you just have to look for those, you know, those investors, you know, even if they are private sector, or those, you know, quasi organizations that are playing a long game, and then some of those underrepresented, underserved communities, you know, I think we'll connect the dots and have more success.
There's probably kind of 2 dimensions to that question. There are, and as you referenced, there are funds that are impact focused, where they're basically non-financial metrics, and sometimes they refer to concessionary results, where they're willing to accept lower financial returns to others. There's another group of which I fall into, which is more philosophical. I think every fund is an impact fund. It's just a matter of how much they care about the impact they're creating with their dollars. And at the end of the day, I'm looking for people and for investments who are trying to do good and do well. I don't believe you have to make concessionary returns in order to deliver value to humanity, if you will. We invest at the intersection of purpose and profit. You know, do your thing, right? And so the world is kind of changing, and hopefully one day my other vision is at some point we'll talk about impact funds, and the way going back to an old reference, used to turn on TV and they would say in color, right? Because being in color was something special, and no one says that anymore. And I think 20 years from now, the same thing will be with impact funds. You won't hear that word anymore because everyone will accept that they're making an impact on the world with their investment decisions, and so it's just investing. So that's how we look at that.
I like that, yeah.
I mean, I think Owen's exactly right. We view our fund as a triple bottom line fund. And I will make a major distinction that some people might not like, but I think is the right way, that, or at least the way we approach it, which is that we don't lower the bar for our investing. We keep the bar the same, whether you're black, white, yellow, purple. But what we do is we make sure that everybody has access to that meeting, everybody gets their hearing, everybody gets to hear the feedback about why we can or can't invest. But if we were to lower that bar, all we would do is go out of business. And then we wouldn't be there for any founders because we get our money from our investors. It's not my money. I'm the fiduciary for that money. They give it to us to invest wisely, knowing that we're going to focus on underrepresented founders, but they still want their returns. And I'll make one distinction. I think most funds, or at least our fund, we're looking for, we model 3.5 times our money over 5 years. So that's what we're looking for 35% IRRs, which is the same math. So a company has to really kind of be able to grow at that rate for us to make an investment. But we're going to make the investment whether it's 3 times our money or 10 times our money when we're modeling it. We just can't make it if it's 1 times our money, meaning we're getting it back and we're not going to make a profit.
So the whole labels of impact and ESG a lot of times are just used for marketing, right? And they are not honest about what their intentions are. But, because every big fund management company came out with an ESG impact, blah, 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 blah fund, right? So the thing is you have to look at actually the companies that they're investing in, what their screening tools are. One way we remove bias is an application process. Everyone has to apply because, we don't want my buddy from Stanford called me and here's a company, and so jump in front of everyone. It's like, no, I've got 10 companies that I have to equally evaluate. So no, you don't get to jump the line because of your friend. And that's the problem, even with those so-called impact funds. But so I think you have to look really carefully at their portfolio companies and who they are. And the thing about TEDCO is we are looking for returns. I mean, yes, we're looking for economic job development, but we're looking for returns too. But my universe is the state of Maryland. So that means that I'm just looking, but we reject companies. We don't just invest in everyone. And we're not I'm not dad giving you an allowance. Like, you have to apply and be good. So we reject companies. So it's not that we're just like, here, we'll give money to anybody. That's absolutely not true. We need a return, and we get good returns. But I think there's a whole wave of new funds targeted for women and underserved minorities, and they are run by women and underserved minorities. So they are going to invest. They're not even calling themselves impact funds because they don't want to be labeled that, because there is so much smoke and mirrors in that. But there's a whole wave of fantastic funds that I'm even personally invested because they are going to invest in those communities. So I mean, I have like a huge list I can share with you. And I share that with my TEDCO portfolio companies. So.
And one quick thing, because it's not represented on the panel too, there was a comment that family office is going to pull back in the next couple of years. But if you look at the natural evolution of family office, when they have a trust that is getting its own returns, you end up getting, like in Baltimore, the Abel Foundation and the Weinberg Foundations, right? And these are big organizations that are still making investments, but it is definitely for, a triple bottom line, as Chris said. They're a little bit more focused on the impact to the community over the impact back to their trust.
Great. Well, I'm really glad that we dug into that question. Is that one more question? Okay, let's make it a great question. Sure. Because you're in the second row, you get priority.
I'm Sue Carr, Cartech. Cartech Corp now. I just wanted to tell you that I'm speaking from experience. I pitched here in 2020 in February. A week later, COVID hit. That same day I went to Frederick and pitched that day, and I don't remember what I said. I was so tired. But from those 2 pitches, I received funding from TEDCO. It took maybe about a year. And I also received a lead investor, a personal banker, and a CEO. So the system does work. And now we're just a few months away from FDA approval. And I want to thank TEDCO for allowing us to make medication preparation safer for all.
Thanks, Sue. That's I actually do remember your presentation. It was wonderful, and what a great way to end. So with success. So Chan, I'll turn it back to you. I want to thank our panelists, great panel, and Chan.
Thank you. Let's give it up for the panel. Thank you guys so much. So this morning we received a little bad news. Kelly Schulz is not feeling well, so out of an abundance of caution, she is not going to be here today. We do have Steve Pennington in the house. We have Todd, who's the chair, so maybe you guys can catch up with Todd later for an update. But we can go ahead and start our pitches. First up, I would like to, we have 7 companies, and all of our companies have tables in the back. So after our pitches, we have networking till noon. So if our presenters could come closer to the front so you can have access quickly. And I'd like to start things off by introducing Bill Huber, who's of counsel for Nemphos Brow, which is a very well-known law firm. Thank you so much, Bill and George and Tim, for your support. Again, there is a masterclass on intellectual property for entrepreneurs that Nemphos will be doing, and that's on November 30th at 11:30 a.m. So please do feel free to log in and join. It's no cost. And with that, I know we're clearing the stage here, but we have a clicker for you guys, and AV is going to get the decks up so we can get started. But let me bring up Bill. Bill, thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Jan. Yes, my name is Bill Huber. I'm of counsel with Nemphos Brow. Just a quick word on Nemphos. I concentrate on the cannabis technology, and yes, there is a distinction there in the industry, as well as healthcare and healthcare technology with the firm. There are very few industries that we don't support or would say no to, and that's because the subject matter carries over, particularly for exactly what we're talking about: corporate development, reorganization, mergers, acquisitions, financing transactions of all kinds. Our founders, Tim Brow and George Nemphos, have really created a culture that embeds the attorney with the business development efforts of our clients and getting to know exactly what those immediate as well as long-term goals are. What is your mission and what is driving you? And that's what leads us to what they like to call a client for life. And it's been a great learning experience on my part as well. So with that, we'll start our pitches. And first, we'd like to introduce ARV Technologies. ARV Technologies is passionate about innovating safer and more efficient vaccines for infectious diseases and therapeutic vaccines for cancer. ARV has also identified a lipid nanoparticle which can deliver RNA 100 times more efficiently than its competition, allowing a safer vaccine with less side effects as a fraction of the cost. Here to present is co-founder of ARV Technology, CEO Randy Zhu.
So good morning, everyone. So my name is Randy Xu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ARV Technologies. So ARV Technology is founded in 2021, and we focus on RNA and its delivery technology to improve vaccine for infectious disease and cancer treatment. In the past 1 year, we have developed our platform for vaccine, and also we developed our first universal mRNA vaccine for COVID-19. And recently, we start a new program focused on vaccine for animal and pet. The RNA vaccine has been demonstrated very effective against the viral infection, particularly for COVID-19. However, it's not perfect yet. They have so many problems. For instance, the short duration and the narrow spectrum of antibody induced by COVID-19 vaccines. The antibody only lasts 3 to 6 months. After that, it's barely detectable. A narrow spectrum antibody do not cross-protect well to the virus, particularly when virus start to mutate. Another one is high cost because the cold chain transportation and storage. The last one is side effect. I think that in this room, most of us receive COVID-19 vaccine either from Moderna or from Pfizer. And yes, over 50% people had side effect. Therefore, that we need solution for current mRNA vaccines. What's our solution? So our solution basically is to utilize our 3 technology platform. They are immunogen design platform, RNA, and LNP formulation platform to redesign the vaccine to make it universal, to make a cancer vaccine, and also utilize RNA and formulation platform to increase vaccine efficacies and reduce the dose, such to overcome the RNA vaccine problems. I'm going to show you some examples. The first solution is to utilize our ARV RNA delivery technology, lipid nanoparticle LNPs. So basically, Moderna use SM12 based LNP to deliver their COVID-19 vaccine. And you can tell that when they use lower dose, they almost don't induce neutralizing antibody. However, when we use our own LNP, which is called ARV-L002, and it can induce stronger neutralizing antibody, particularly that we can induce similar or even better immune responses with hundreds times lower doses, which is very exciting. And this is also very important to demonstrate that our vaccine has more efficacy effect, and also as well we have the potential to reduce the cost and reduce side effect. Another solution is to utilize our immunogen design platform. We design our universal COVID-19 vaccines so that it can protect COVID-19 infection regardless of the viral mutations. This is show one example that we use animal models, and we found our vaccine, which is called PanCovax, can 100% protect mice, animal from the diesel dose of SARS-CoV-2 infections. And this slide shows you our company's pipeline. In addition to a COVID-19 vaccine, we're also working with vaccine against infection disease, cancer treatment, and animal vaccines. And I missed some slide, but it's okay. Time off. Okay, so now we receive the annual financial last year, $3 million. And this year we are looking for Series A. We aim to recruit $10 million and to support our vaccine for clinical trial next year. And last, thank you so much, and happy to have answer your any question in the future. Thank you, guys.
Next up, we have CodeLock. CodeLock is a patent-pending SaaS solution that continuously provides software security at the code level. Simply, inexpensively, and frictionlessly implemented within the software development lifecycle, CodeLock's approach instantly alerts management if any unauthorized change is made to their software. For more about CodeLock, please welcome CEO Brian Gallagher.
Good morning, almost afternoon. Hello, I'm Brian Gallagher with CodeLock, and I want to talk to you a little bit about software security and what we are doing to ultimately change how software is being built around the world. So the big problem that you see within software is this balance between speed and security. Which takes priority? And historically, it's always been speed because that's been generated to revenue. But with the increase of cybercrime, things like SolarWinds and what we've seen over the last few years, security has come up and become more important with new compliance regulations that are out. So what are we doing and how are we addressing this? The problem to the solution is CodeLock, which we created. And as you heard in the intro, CodeLock is a SaaS solution focused on protecting software security at the code level, but we also give management insights into what developers are doing to include contractors and offshore development for those looking for less expensive developers offshore now, and being able to help them with compliance when it comes to some of the new standards that are coming out from government. From an intellectual property perspective and really the basis of what we're doing, we created a way to make a chain of custody between the software developer and the code that they're committing into a repo. We sit as a proxy in between the two, extremely easy to integrate and user-friendly for the developers, and we have a supporting UI that goes with that. From a market perspective, it's huge and expanding from specifically a DevSoc or DevSecOps perspective. So everybody here who invests and knows about cyber knows that cyber is up and growing. But the part of the cyber market that we're focused in on, the DevSecOps aspect of it, is growing at 3 times the rate at about 30%, as you see. More specifically, and this will come in with competition, the part of the problem that we're solving related to the software development environment is really emerging. Gartner says that only 1 to 5% of that market has been penetrated right now, and they're looking at somewhere between 2 to 5 year plateau. So when you're looking for the return in the time frame, it's right on target. We have a product-led growth strategy, so standard SaaS model, but we look at bringing our clients on and moving them through the process and ultimately getting our software throughout their organization. From an ARR growth perspective, we have just launched our MVP and are starting to onboard clients, and we're looking at substantial growth over the next few years. Traction-wise, SolarWinds was really the catalyst for what we were doing in December of 2020. Happened to be working with the US government at the time when SolarWinds occurred, and we pulled some of our team together of data scientists, blockchain analysts, and cybersecurity professionals to see how we could help solve that problem. Fast forward a couple of months later, DHS actually came out with a public endorsement on what we proposed and patented, saying that we would have been effective against the SolarWinds attack in nation states like China and Russia. So that got us started into raising money. We did 2 pre-seeds. We went through Alchemist Accelerator last summer out of Silicon Valley, and we've been following what the government's been doing with upcoming mandates, like the OMB mandate that just got released here about 8 weeks ago. So from a competition perspective, I mentioned Gartner's stat where only 1 to 5% of this market is penetrated. The reason is we're focused in on an area that historically software tools or security tools didn't address. We were looking at prior to the code actually coming into the repo itself. We got a great team of people. My co-founder, Paul, is with us, and one of our other co-founders, JT Kosman, Dr. Kosman, former chief data scientist of Samsung, chief data officer at Time Inc., Ravi Bellini, one of our advisors from Alchemist Accelerator. And come talk to us, see us in the back, and we're happy to tell you about what we're doing and what we're raising and how you can participate. Thank you.
Up next is Innovative Supply Solutions. Innovative Supply Solutions is a B2B software company helping small to medium biotech and pharma companies overcome the challenges of supplying drug and other materials for clinical trials. ISS Nexus is a cloud-based system that includes the key components required to plan and manage materials needed for a clinical trial. I'm pleased to introduce Chief Business Officer of Innovative Supply Solutions, Phil Heifetz.
Phil Heifetz, I'm the Chief Business Officer, Innovative Supply Solutions, our ISS. Joining me today, actually in the room, is Adam Warren, our founder and CEO. Adam has a great background, over 25 years of experience with some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, including Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. He's considered a subject expert in clinical supplies, and Adam and his teams have run over 1,000 clinical trials. So We know our customers, we know their needs, we know their pain. From my perspective, I've been in a bunch of different startups across life sciences, and I've been really leading finance and business development, a number of those, and have done deals that have accumulated over $75 million over my career. Two things probably all of us have heard about: clinical trials, supply chains. If you remember one thing, we do both of those. So ISS, we are a SaaS, that's software as a service, web-based technology company. We help pharma address the production and logistics challenges they face in a clinical trial. We're currently at 1.4 million ARR, annual recurring revenue. We're here today to talk to you about our current $1 million raise. This is designed to increase sales and scale the operations of the business. Now, at ISS, we believe that 15 years and over $1 billion is too much time and too much money to bring a new drug to market. We all heard about clinical trials. That's a big part of it. What we may not all appreciate, though, and you don't have to be an expert to know this, is that clinical supplies is a big piece of that. And by clinical supplies, we're talking about all of the drug and the materials, all the stuff that goes into a clinical trial. And today, the Excel spreadsheets and the legacy systems that pharma is relying on to do this isn't really working. And that prevents them from getting the right drug to the right patient the right time every time. And getting it wrong can be catastrophic. You can have patients who are harmed, we have errors, we have waste, we have situation where an entire trial or even a program that can cost $100 million or more ends up a total failure because of this. So we have the solution, ISS Nexus. This is the central hub for clinical supplies. There's 3 components that are put together, cloud-based system. The forward forecasting part creates a forward-looking model, essentially full simulation, runs the trial before it happens. We have another system called IRT. You don't have to know what that means, but that's the part that keeps track of what patient got what drug at the clinical trial sites. And then finally, inventory management puts that all together and provides a high-level view to enable production planning. We know this works. We have a case study. We saved one company, and this was in 1-hour meeting. We saved a company over $400,000 of avoided cost in a manufacturing run they didn't need, and 3 months' time off their development timeline, which again is huge. So to shift gears a little bit, talked about how we make money. We're in over $1 billion addressable market. We have a land and expand SaaS model. We think it's very feasible for us to make significant penetration into that market. So I mentioned we're here today. We're talking about our $1 million raise. It's half subscribed currently. Ben Franklin Technology Partners of our friends in Pennsylvania are currently the lead on that. We'd love to talk to anybody who's interested participating. We have high growth potential. We see exit opportunities within 2 to 3 years. And we know there are a lot of companies out there that are going to want to buy us if we can achieve that kind of growth. So again, thank you very much.
Okay, up next is Kinemetrics. Over 1 million patients fall in the U.S. hospitals each year, over a third of which result in injury and lead to 11,000 excess deaths. Kinemetrics has developed an artificial intelligence platform that uses electronic health record data to predict and prevent patient harm events in hospitals, accurately predicting hospital fall risk in real time. Please welcome CEO of Kinemetrics, Davina Desai.
Good morning. I'm Davina Desai. I'm the CEO of Kinemetrics. So Kinemetrics uses an AI platform to predict patient harm events in hospitals to enhance patient safety. As Bill mentioned, over 1 million patients fall each year in hospitals. 1/3 of those are injurious and extends length of stay by 8 to 12 days. It costs on average $7,000 per fall. That is a $7 billion problem for all U.S. hospitals. The current standard of care uses subjective assessments. They are time-consuming for nurses to complete and are completed every 8 to 12 hours. We developed our solution using actual inpatient records, 500,000 inpatient records, and we use 40+ objective variables from the electronic health record. How that works is we automatically extract data from the patient's record. we assess it on our AI platform, and then we write a risk assessment back to the patient record with individualized risk drivers. That allows nurses, clinicians to individualize care planning for each patient. And we are the only solution out there that's built solely to address hospital-acquired conditions, and we're the only one that focuses on clinicians as well. We have a dynamic team between Patrick, myself, and Todd. We have 80+ years of hospital administration and clinical experience, and we've collectively raised $6 million non-dilutive funding as well. We have 2 pilots that will go live early in 2023 that bring in $500,000, a little less than that, in revenue, and we have another $4 million in our pipeline for 2023 as well. So falls, I mentioned, is the first hospital-acquired condition we're targeting, but our clinical-driven AI has additional applications. We're looking at pressure injuries, which is a larger market, a $35 billion problem in the US. We're going to develop that later in 2023, followed by hospital-acquired infection prediction in 2024. So that with 3 modules in the market and our land and expand strategy, we project revenues upwards of $80 million by 2027. We are currently raising a seed round, $750,000 to support our integrations, and we have raised $250,000 of that already. Thank you.
Thank you, Davina. I'd like to remind everyone that after our 7th presenter, we have 3 more to go, we'll go back to the networking room for coffee, and we can kind of learn more about these presenters. I'd like to bring up Daryl Barros, who's a partner at Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. They are a longstanding supporter of CONNECTpreneur, and I want to congratulate Daryl and his team. I was up in New York with them last week at the American Lawyers Gala dinner. You guys were finalists for the Innovation Award against some monster law firms. But Daryl is an entrepreneur. He also is a fund manager and a lawyer. So Daryl, come on up. Thanks for your support. He will introduce our next 3 presenters.
Thank you, Tian, and I'd like to thank your team for today's event. I'll make this short because I know we have a speed round. Next is an innovative new model for the delivery of legal services from launch to every stage of growth, and has been designed from the entrepreneur's perspective. If you want to find us, www.next.law. Pretty good. First company I'd like to introduce is Mindful Mamas. Mindful Mamas is a maternal mental health app for every motherhood journey. Here to tell us more about the company is Tara Arap.
Okay, so I want to just take a lay of the land. Raise your hand if you're a parent. Okay, now keep your hands up if you or your partner has ever been triggered by your own children. I know we can laugh about that, but I do want to say that that is completely normal. And if you can put your hands back up, take a look around the room and realize you are not alone. That is what we do for mothers around the world, is we normalize the often hidden experiences that mothers face in motherhood and life, and we also make them feel less alone. So we are a maternal mental health app for the entire motherhood journey, and we have a direct-to-consumer app with a reoccurring revenue model. As a licensed psychologist, I almost lost my life to suicide after experiencing postpartum depression and OCD. So I am well positioned to solve the maternal mental health crisis. I know it and I lived it deeply. We created the first program that spans the entire life cycle of the mother, from trying to conceive all the way through empty nesting. The longevity of our offerings is what is helping us dominate in this space. We use mindfulness, meditation, mood tracking, and other modalities of psychology to help our moms achieve wellness outcomes. Just like a great therapist would differentiate their treatment plans to their patients, that is what we are doing with our moms. Moms are slipping through the cracks. We cannot just treat our way out of the mental health crisis. We need to be focused on prevention. If we don't have healthy mothers, we won't have healthy kids. So I want you to think about this for a second. We have 1 in 5 women who are affected by a mood disorder. We have 9.8 working mothers in the United States that are reporting severe burnout, and look at how long it takes to see a therapist. These 3 statistics help highlight why 75% of our mothers who need mental health treatment are not receiving it today. So you have to believe in our shared vision of eradicating maternal mental health issues. We're already servicing a large international audience. However, today we're really focused on expanding our reach in the US market, capturing a $1 billion market and addressing the 10.3 million moms who need mental health support but are not getting it. As we expand our offerings, we'll be able to tap into that middle bubble, and then we'll focus on our international expansion plans. At this early stage, we are meeting and exceeding benchmarks for our industry. So I want you to imagine what we can do when we are bigger than a team of 5 and we have a fully stacked team. These results have shown that we can absolutely attract downloads. We have a very strong opt-in from the App Store to opt into our free trial. And not only that, moms that are finishing the free trial are converting and becoming paying customers. In July, we started our paid efforts, and the trajectory for capital growth is very strong. On the engagement side, we're equally as successful with very strong 30-day listener retention. We've seen as high as 18,000 monthly active users, and our moms are coming back to our app 2 times a day. So the strategy first starts with the Rockstar team. We are expert-led, we are female-founded, and we are supercharged by mentors and advisors that are experts in this field. And where are we going? We already meet the vast range of maternal needs, servicing mom over 500 practices that span common life stages, life circumstances, and issues. We're going to expand our offerings to include partners and kids, which will increase our LTV by introducing a family plan. And our product will continue to help us be differentiated by expanding into machine learning, which will help us deploy smart recommendations to meet mom right where she's at every single day. So given the versatility of the value proposition, we are well poised to become an attractive acquisition across several distinct industries. And we're ready to accelerate our growth by meeting the families that need us most. We have a strategic investor that came in on our pre-seed round with Otsuka Pharmaceuticals, and they've given us best-in-class market research and clinical research, and this will help us build the bridge to B2B, and we're well on our way to meeting our goals in the bottom right corner. We often say, everyone wants to hold the baby, but who is going to hold the mother? That's us, and I hope you join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. That was a great job. The next company, Orion Biotechnology. Orion has developed the world's first proprietary drug discovery platform for precision engineering small peptides and proteins. Please welcome Chris Lehman, Orion's financial advisor.
My name is Chris Lehman, and I'm Orion Biotechnology's financing advisor. I'd like to introduce Orion's breakthrough drug discovery platform, which is giving us the ability to drug previously undruggable receptor targets with industry-leading efficiency and to develop transformative new therapeutics. G-protein coupled receptors are implicated in cancer, neurological diseases, metabolic and inflammatory disorders. However, using standard drug discovery approaches, less than 13% of this very important class of targets has actually been effectively drugged. G-protein coupled receptors, or GPCRs, are identified in this superfamily. So this is a tree diagram that identifies the entire superfamily of GPCRs. Early success has generated billions of dollars in revenues for pharma. These here are the low-hanging fruit. We're targeting the upper blue limbs of the tree. They represent an enormous market potential. Just 3 of the 100 GPCRs in this superfamily that Orion is currently targeting represent a $130 billion market opportunity. The Orion approach is probably much too difficult for me to describe in this time frame. So let me tell you what the end result is. The end result of our precision peptide engineering program is a peptide that fits like a key in a lock to these very large receptor binding targets that are GPCRs. What that means is it delivers very high specificity, high potency, and most importantly, superior modulation for controlling signaling. So Orion has 8 programs in development. Many of them are best in class, some of them are first in class therapeutic opportunities. We have an extremely strong patent portfolio. We have a biotech partnership as well as a partnership with Peptologics, which is an artificial intelligence company. Let me tell you a little bit about our lead program, which is OB002. It targets colorectal cancer, a significant unmet medical need. It's currently in IND-enabling studies and will enter the clinic in 2023. We have strong efficacy data showing that OB002 inhibits tumor growth, prevents metastasis, and also prevents the ability of tumors to regenerate after chemotherapy. OB002 has demonstrated best-in-class potential for between 10 and 70 times higher potency than competing small molecule and antibody drugs. Near-term monetization for Orion could easily look like this $1.2 billion Roche deal with $125 million upfront. Based on market comparables for our drug candidates and for our technology platform, we believe Orion has the potential to reach a multi-billion-dollar market. Orion's team includes biotech royalty. On his way to winning the 2018 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Sir Gregory Winter navigated 3 biotech companies to exit. Where Sir Gregory innovated using phage display for antibody therapeutics, his protege, Oliver Hartley, is innovating phage display for precision peptide engineering. So the talent on our team has demonstrated the ability to manage an enterprise that has multiple drug candidate programs and to successfully realize our own exit, either via M&A or IPO. The company has been backed by experienced biotech investors, including Wellcome Trust and Keiretsu. We're in the final stage of closing the second tranche of our Series A, which is over 90% subscribed. Proceeds from the financing will allow us to further expand our portfolio, advance our current pipeline, and close additional licensing deals. So our patented validated drug discovery program provides excellent risk mitigation and the potential for high financial returns. Through precision peptide engineering, we have the ability to drug previously undruggable receptors through industry-leading efficiency. Thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce Orion.
Thank you, Chris. The next and I guess final company to present is Render. Render is a remote engagement tool built to save contractors time and money by streamlining the first step in the renovation process. Simply and accurate. Here to tell us who they are and how they do it is AJ Ballantine, founder and CEO.
All right, well, good morning. Netflix, Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, all industry disruptors, all remote engagement businesses. Now, who here in this room has ever remodeled part of their home? Bathroom, a kitchen? I mean, think back about the earliest part of that process. You know, inviting contractors in and out of your home, not really sure who you were going to pick and scheduling around their schedules. I mean, that part kind of sucks. I mean, it's not much better for the contractor either. I mean, think about it. Contractors spend countless time and money chasing cold leads and visiting people in their homes that may not end up choosing them anyway. Well, we seek to change that with Render. We're introducing the first remote engagement solution for contractors, which by default is a challenging endeavor. Because what do contractors need to be able to sell anything? We need accurate measurements. And of course, how do you get accurate measurements of a space unless you're standing in it? Well, back in 2020, the need for this was a reality for me. I had to shut my own remodeling business down for 7 weeks. And during those 7 weeks, I had 20 employees, 20 families that were relying on me to get creative, to figure out a way that I could sell remodeling projects without being inside of a customer's home so that we had a business to come back to. Well, we did exactly that, and that award-winning idea turned into Render. It's an app that scans and creates floor plans in a matter of seconds. is an app that is so easy to use that contractors can actually invite homeowners to do the scan on their behalf, negating the need for any in-home consultation. We've actually already been dubbed the DoorDash equivalent for the home improvement industry. And here's why. Let me show you how it works. A contractor, instead of setting up an in-home visit, is actually going to invite a homeowner to scan their space with their phone. All it takes is for the homeowner to walk around the room with their phone. It is as simple as this motion, no joke. And as soon as it's done, a floor plan and a 3D model with all of the measurements for everything inside of that space is captured and sent directly to the contractor so that they can bid that job without ever needing to step foot in that person's house. The market size is absolutely tremendous. There's almost $500 billion in US spend every single year alone, of which we've identified $4.7 billion of that market as something directly serviceable between subscriptions and lead generation. There's over 500,000 home improvement professionals and over 100 million projects done in the US every year. So how are we going to disrupt that market? Well, let me tell you how. It's because we bring value. We can help save those contractors time. We can help save them money. We can help them recession-proof their business, COVID-proof their business. I mean, we can help them operate more efficiently so that they can grow and scale their business in any economy, all while adding convenience for you guys and all of these people that are remodeling their homes every single year. What about the competition? Well, there are a few other measuring apps out on the market, but what we've heard from our focus groups and of course experienced ourselves is that these apps are not worth the time, they're not worth the money, they're not accurate enough. That's our linchpin here. Well, we're faster, easier, more convenient. We fix all of those things. And remember, we're not just a measuring tool. We have this unique invite to capture feature. We've assembled a team to take this thing to the moon because we know that it can go there. We have decades of experience in home improvement, mobile app development, marketing, technology, and sales. Joe Valeri, our business advisor and CTO, has seen 4 successful previous exits and over $40 million raised in previous businesses. Our revenue projections based on subscription revenue for the first few years, we aim for about $10 million in annual recurring just by year 3, when we actually look to monetize 2 other aspects of the home improvement industry, both in lead generation and also affiliate sales, and that's where we take off. We've previously raised $400,000 in a pre-seed round to build our initial product, and now we are seeking $2 million for additional product features, marketing, and of course to make a few key hires. With that being said, I'd love to see you guys at my table. I'd love to show you guys some demos about how truly easy this works. And let's work together at saving contractors the time and giving them their nights and weekends back. Thank you for your time.
So that concludes our pitches. Our presenters will be in the back room where the coffee is, and please visit them and get to learn more. I think you guys all did a great job, so congratulations. I want to also thank our sponsors, our host committee, the people that have prepped our presenters, and most of all, Johns Hopkins Carey Business School and Dean Alex Trantis. Alex, thank you so much. Mark your calendars. December 13th, we'll be in Tyson's Corner, and we have virtual events on November 22nd online, as well as December, but I can't remember the date. But anyway, thank you guys for coming. We have the room for, well, we have the place for another hour or so, right? Right, Dean, before we get kicked out. So please enjoy, and thank you guys for coming.